Another month, another digest. This time, October 2023 is the year we are. And last month, I made a promise, all right? I said that I would watch every single movie that was recommended to me because it's October, all right? And that's a spooky month. Um, and I didn't watch a single recommendation, okay? It might seem like I watched one, but that wasn't a recommendation. We'll get to that. So yeah, my apologies, all right? I've been incredibly busy. I have a paper. I'm doing a PhD. I have one paper that's due very soon that I had to submit a draft for. So I was very busy, right? But I did watch a lot of movies, so this is going to be a long digest. You're looking at the runtime and you're thinking, Ari, it's actually not that long. And that's because Ahsoka, I don't know yet. You're probably finding out as you're seeing this, but I don't know if I'm recording a separate Ahsoka thing or if I'm including it in this. So if the runtime is like 4 hours long, then that's probably why. If it's like maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours, then I probably excluded Ahsoka. But anyway, let me check my intro here. I said I had to give a great apology, which of course I did. It is also a bit late, a few days late, been busy, Attack on Titan's coming out. I had to make a video. And I was going to give a list of things that I'm guaranteed to watch next month, but I forgot to do that. All right, so next month is the recommendation month, all right? I'm going to try and watch at least one recommendation from every person that's like recommended a movie, at least. But we'll see. Anyway, to start off the October digest here, we have Perfect Blue. So this is from 1997. It's an anime movie. It's 1 hour and 21 minutes long, and I watched it on the 4th of October, so it was so long ago. So this was recommended on the last video by Kyle Entertainment, but it's not a recommendation because I was actually planning to watch this month. It's crazy. I was actually planning to watch this much earlier because when I was coming back from America on the plane, I actually I paid and downloaded Perfect Blue because I was going to watch it on the plane, but turns out I didn't watch anything on the plane, so I didn't get to watch it at all. And I decided to watch it this month, so that was crazy. And I watched the sub, of course. There was a sub and a dub version, and I watched like the first scene in the dub because I was like, I love dubs. Dubs are going to be great. And the dub was it was not very great as far as what I noticed. At least it came off as a bit cheesy, or cheesier than I would expect or want for this type of serious-ish kind of movie. So I swapped to the dub. But anyway, overall, this is a 5 out of 5, unquestionably. This is one of my favorite things I've seen this year. You'll see it in the rankings, I guess, where I place it exactly. And maybe on successive viewings, it might go higher. I don't know. At the moment, it is where it is. But this is really good. It's a movie where, like, without looking at my notes here, because I have a lot of notes, but it's a movie where, firstly, number one, style over substance. It's incredibly good to look at. Like, in terms of the old school animation, I don't know what you call it, if it's like cell shading or something. I don't know what the proper term is, but it looks really good. Directing-wise, it has a lot of really cool shots. It's abstract, which I like a lot. Like, it's completely, in my opinion, there's no plot to this, which is works in its favor. I really like that there's no plot, or at least it feels like everything that in a similar way to Evangelion and Revolutionary Girl Utena, where it feels like everything is like abstract and it's silly to interpret things logically or like not logically, but like literally. I feel like this movie is kind of one of those, and I really like it for that. It's just engaging. That's it. It's just so it's like I don't know what's gonna happen next. The setting is really cool. You're following like a interesting like idol kind of character. I love this movie. This is fun. I would watch this on like, I was actually considering watching this twice this month just so I had like a bunch of really good notes about it, where I could actually analyze things properly, but I didn't end up getting time. So what you're going to see here is a bunch of miscellaneous random notes from my first watch through of Perfect Blue. But I loved it, is basically the takeaway. And I would definitely recommend this to anyone who, luckily I haven't spoiled anything yet, so now you still have your chance to watch it. I would absolutely recommend this movie. It's a fun, how would I classify this? Like a psychological thriller, maybe? It's kind of like a thriller. I don't know. Psychological thriller is what I would say. A lot of fun. It's also one of the very limited number of anime movies that I've seen. I think in total I've probably seen like 5 anime movies or something like that. And it's probably my favorite one. I can't even think of another one. I mean, Your Name was really good, but that works because of the emotional aspect. They're very different kind of movies. I think I like this one better. I think it might be my favorite anime movie. Anyway, let me look at my actual overall thoughts notes here. So this is a real good movie. True. It's one of those movies where the style is everything. Look, I already nailed that. And it only works because the meaning is just slightly out of reach and abstract enough to let the movie get rid of the, so I don't even know what that means. It's great, right? you feel like you can understand it, but you can't quite, and I like that a lot. This is an abstraction. Look at that. I've already nailed all my points here. There is no plot. I love it. It feels like a movie about identity in an era where the world is becoming smaller thanks to the internet. Yeah, I have a few readings. I don't remember what they were, but that was one of them where there's like the internet seems to be a big part of this, where it's like what is this, the late 1990s. I imagine this movie was probably made in like 1995 or 1996 or something, where the internet is starting to get really popular in the world. And this is kind of exploring what impact will it have on identity or ownership of personhood or something. I don't know. It was interesting. There's a few things. I'm sure I'll probably cover them here as I read through things. It's been so long. I don't remember the details of this movie. I wish I recorded this right afterwards. I might start doing that, honestly, like start recording things afterwards. But anyway, something interesting to point out is that the movie is tackling a bunch of really interesting ideas in abstract ways. So yeah, what is identity? What is reality? Because there's a lot of reality kind of bending things here. Does acting something out? Yeah, because she's also an actor. So it's kind of like not commenting. It's hard to explain. I have a note on this later, but the movie is also tackling the question of like, if you act something out, does that make it a reality? Like if you pretend to be something, do you become that thing? And also kind of tackling the question of art imitating life. I don't know, it's really interesting. And collective ownership and expectations of others. So that's like to do with the fact that she's an idol and everyone has like they kind of feel like they own a part of her identity, which is, I think, really interesting. And then fan culture as well. That's like, that stems from, I guess, collective ownership. There's a lot of really interesting ideas here. Like I feel like there's a million video essays you could make about this. And I was very close to actually, I guess, starting one, but I was very busy. But yeah, Perfect Blue is a great movie. What is this? But I have a but here. What makes the movie amazing isn't... Oh yeah, this is what I was trying to get at before. So I just listed like a bunch of ideas, right? But the movie doesn't present these ideas so that you come to some conclusion. You're like, oh my god, the movie's telling me that collective ownership is like a thing because of the internet or something. Like, you don't have any conclusions. I think it's just interesting to watch a movie, and when you're watching the movie, to kind of just think of these things that come to mind. Like, I'll be watching her look at a website where a fan is like blogging as though they are her, and it's like she's reading her own thoughts or something. And to me, it's kind of like, for a second there, I just think, what does it actually mean to have an identity? Like, do you own your identity, or is an identity what the majority of people in the world see you as? Like, is that your identity? Like, who owns it more, the collective or just the person? And the movie doesn't have any conclusion to that based on her like seeing that blog. But it's just interesting that the movie provoked something like that in my mind, which is what I value, I guess, about this movie. But yeah, let's see what I actually wrote here about that note. I said, but what makes the movie amazing isn't that these ideas make me think too deeply, but the fact that the movie is touching on these ideas in an abstract way. Perfect, look at that. For example, I'm not amazed by the idea that who you are might be a product of the way people perceive your public image, but the simple idea is portrayed in the movie in a really cool way, and it's engaging to watch. So yeah, something basically like what I just said. But yeah, those are my overall thoughts on Perfect Blue. I think it has really cool themes and stuff. It's well made, etc., etc. Production wise, yeah, old anime. It looks. I wish I knew what it's called. I'm pretty sure it's called like cell animation or something. I don't know. Cell shading. That's like a video game thing. But I wonder if it's all anime used to be made like this, right? Like Dragon Ball, Utena. That one One Piece movie that I watched that was also looked like similar to this. And I assume it's because it was in an era before computers were like a very mainstream, cheap, efficient kind of way to produce things, I would assume. But surely there's like modern anime that can replicate this style perfectly by just doing it the old way, right? And I'm sure there are stuff like that. It'd probably be OVAs or something special, like movies or something where you can really spend the time to do that. I would be interested in watching like modern anime that replicate this kind of style intentionally. That would be really interesting, but I've never seen or heard of anything like that. Anyway, first production-wise note. The first scene made this... Oh yeah, this movie opens weirdly. It opens with a concert, and I think there's like superheroes or something. No, maybe it's not a concert. Maybe it's like a play or something where there's like superheroes and they're shooting something, or I don't know what's going on. But it feels very low budget, is what I would say. Like the animation feels a bit choppy. It doesn't look very good. Like the mouths aren't moving when people are talking. It's like a bit weird. But it's funny because the rest of the movie is incredibly like beautiful to look at. Like every shot is amazing. There's so much detail going on all the time. The lighting is so cool. But I don't know what happened in that first scene, but that was just something I noticed. Anyway, Now I have a section here for ideas, so I don't know how thorough this is, but the title of the film. I finished this movie and I just realized, like, well, I guess I didn't finish it. I was getting toward the end and I was like, why is this called Perfect Blue? Um, and I do have a note here about, like, I truly, firstly, I have no idea. Like, I don't know what Perfect Blue means. I think it's just a cool title. I'm sure it has something to do with this. I'm sure you could extract something from this, but I certainly couldn't. But there was one line here I said, in the scene where the main girl, when she wakes up and her fish are alive, and the older woman, I also don't know any character names besides Mimi, I think is the main character. When the old woman is dressed up as her and singing the idol song, the old woman says, "What do you think? Perfect, huh?" And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess this is something to do with Perfect Blue. Like maybe Mimi means blue or something. I don't know. Or maybe she like wears blue or has like blue something and I just missed it. I don't know. I'm sure it has something to do with her like masquerading as Mimi. I don't know. Or maybe I can understand the perfect thing. The perfect is like a complete consumption or ownership over something. Like it's perfect. Like I've completely mastered appearing as Mimi or something. But I don't know what the blue aspect is, I guess. I don't know. Maybe sadness or something? Perfect sadness? I don't know. Anyway, next idea. Is the internet meant to represent the idealized version of Mimi, the collective unconscious of society? Or maybe it's the opposite, where it's either that the internet is... I mean, there's many, obviously not just the dichotomy, but one option is that the internet is like the fans taking all the good things about Mimi, or like all the things that make her more than human or something, and creating this like idealized version of this character, which is a real person, but online is just like this character, I guess. Or the other option is that character that is being created through the internet's representation of her is the true Mimi. Like what I was saying before about identity, about how like if everyone is extracting this from Mimi herself, like they're extracting this character of this idol who's innocent and doesn't do rape scenes like we see later or anything like that. Maybe that is the true Mimi, and it also, I guess it ties in with like, what is Mimi, like the word, like what is, when it comes to identity, there is Mimi the person, and there is Mimi the concept or character, and they are two different things. I don't know. I haven't thought much about this, but the movie at least made me think about this kind of stuff, which I thought was really interesting. But anyway. Yeah, so the internet is the true Mimi, while Mimi herself is playing a part her whole life, or perhaps the blog is her stalker's interpretation of her real feelings under the persona she puts on. Yeah, so another option is that she, like maybe she's trying to play the role that other people have given her, where like the blogs have created this fictitious Mimi, and she is trying to portray what she wants to satisfy the people who validate her identity. I don't know. It's interesting. I think the stalker is trying to preserve the idealized version of Mimi represented by the alter ego from when she was an idol. This idealized version of Mimi is likely the collective representation of Mimi the idol in Japanese society, carved into the internet for people to obsess over for all time. Yeah, I think that ties into what I just said. It's just, I think I'm saying the same thing over and over, but I hope you get the point. This was an interesting thing. I also haven't looked at any theories for this. The only thing I looked up later was that apparently this is directed by Satoshi Kon, who is a famous like director who also directed something else that I'm talking about in this digest. But I think I've like vaguely heard the name, but yeah, it was interesting. It was great. It was a complete coincidence that I also watched Paprika this month. I had no idea that they were made by the same person, but until someone told me on stream. But anyway, yeah, one crazy theory I had is that what if there is a stalker fan in this, a weird, creepy-looking stalker fan, which I think has a really cool character design. But the thing is, he kind of looks like Mimi from the back. And I feel like that's intentional. Or at least for me, it's like so obvious when I see it. I'm like, oh my god, if you like squint your eyes and it's dark and he's like facing the other way, it's like, oh my god, that's Mimi right there. Which is interesting, because it adds to another element of... maybe that is another, like maybe there is no Mimi in this movie. Maybe Mimi the idol, Mimi the alter ego, Mimi the stalker, and Mimi the internet blog, like, and also Mimi the adult impersonating her like younger self. These are all representations of a different person who exists in reality. And we're watching some like abstraction of this person's identity. Like the whole movie is like everything about this movie is all about some real person, like split into like a million different ways. It's like an analysis of someone's identity through many different lenses. I don't know. It's I don't have the words for it, but I don't know. the fact that from behind that stalker guy kind of looks like Mimi, I thought it was really cool. Anyway, so another idea here: the internet blog. If enough people say things and believe things about you, it may as well be reality. I've touched on that already. Excuse me. This is my last one here about identity. Oh, not identity, ideas. But I said, does media perpetuate culture? So this is not related to the movie at all, but it's just something I thought of when I was watching the movie, which is that this movie is set in 1997. All right. And there's a lot of, like, for instance, in this movie, there's rotary phones, and rotary phones were like a really common thing in 1997, as far as I remember, back in 97 when I was 0 years old. Now I wonder if there were no movies, would rotary phones have lasted shorter than they did? Like, would the lifespan of rotary phones in like common usage, would that have been shorter if movies didn't exist? I guess like my hypothesis is that by preserving old technology in movies, we popularize the nostalgia for those kind of technologies. Well, not even nostalgia, but like we just like, it becomes a part of society. When you see something in so many movies, it's like, oh, obviously we should get like a rotary phone because it's in the movies, but not in like a product placement kind of way, but in like a, I don't even know what I'm saying, but like, it just feels like movies perpetuate culture in a way. I don't know, like technology and like ideas of like how God, I don't even know what I'm saying. I hope you can piece something out of that. All right, there, enjoy my rant, and hopefully you can take something from that. Maybe it'll come to me later and I'll figure it out. But let me see. Actually, maybe if I just read this note, the genius will come out. Does media perpetuate culture, i.e., a movie captures society at a moment in time? For example, this movie is in 1997. People watch movies set in this time and love the movies, and hence want to realize those times in their physical world. For instance, the rotary phones probably lasted longer than they would have if movies capturing the society they were used in didn't exist. Something like that. I don't know. Anyway, that's all my like substantive, I don't know what it is, substantive, perfect blue notes. The rest of them are just miscellaneous ones that I'll go through now. So I said, I like how initially she's waving her hands in weird ways, and then you quickly get the reveal that she's practicing choreography. Yeah, that is true. I kind of like I feel like I say this about everything that I like when it comes to anime, but it felt like this was directed very live action. Perhaps the most live action directing I've seen in any like film or anime at all. Like the one that comes to mind, there's two that come to mind. One is Chainsaw Man, but that story itself is very non-grounded. So although it's directed in a very realistic style, it doesn't feel like a very realistic thing because of that. The other thing is Evangelion. That's also kind of less grounded than this movie, so it also, I guess, has a similar thing to Chainsaw Man, where it's like, yeah, technically it feels more live action, but it still has that disconnect. This movie, the subject matter is very grounded, with like a few dream sequences or whatever, or arguably the entire movie is a dream sequence. But yeah, like when she's staring out her window, for instance, when she realizes that someone is stalking her, that feels like a very realistic, like kind of directed shot, which I think is really cool. When she's on a film set and it's like busy and bustling, and you've got like all these voices being heard in the background, like that's a directing shot that makes it feel very directing choice, sorry, that makes it feel very down to earth and realistic. I don't know, stuff like that. That was my first miscellaneous note. Oh yeah, talking about that window shot where she's like, she realizes that she gets a letter from someone who's stalking her, and she looks out the window, and she realizes that someone might be watching her right now. And she looks out, and it's like there's like hundreds of like buildings, and it's like Jesus Christ, or like thousands of apartments, because there's like multiple stories and stuff. It's crazy, and it's a terrifying thought of like asymmetrical experiences is what I've wrote in my note here, where it's like you open your window of your apartment that overlooks an entire like cityscape, and you see all of those like thousands of windows, and what that implies is that all of those thousands of people could be looking at you right now, and you can't tell because they're too far away. Like, but it's just like crazy. It's like, it's crazy how many people can see you at a given moment. For instance, if you're just looking out your window in a cityscape, it's crazy. I don't know, scary, terrifying, as I put it in my note here. Yeah. Next up, at one point they use a Mac operating system like login screen, and I just wonder if, because Apple was quite small relatively compared to today, in 1997, I wonder if they got permission for that, or if Apple was small enough where it's like, yeah, we'll just put a screen here, no one will care. I don't know. Anyway, This is another miscellaneous note. What do you even do if you find that someone is stalking your every movement for years and you've never even noticed? Like, do you just like keep living and assume that, you know, they won't do anything? It's already been years. They know everything about me and I've never noticed. So, like, who cares? If you can't notice something, then just keep living. Or do you actually do something? I don't know. I don't know what's like the scarier option. Like, you just keep living and be like, oh yeah, if I've lived like for the past 5 years, I'll be good. Or do you risk taking action and making things worse? I don't know. The next note, there's a few elements going on here. Wanting, I'm just gonna have a bunch of rants here probably about like what's actually happening. Wanting to be a singer instead of an actor, getting used to the internet, having a stalker, the things she's filming reflecting real life events. I wonder how this all ties together. I don't think it has to. Firstly, I don't think it does tie together, and I don't think it has to be really good. Anyway, the filming of the rape scene is great. Yeah, that was really cool. Where she's it's like really intense, and it's like it's meant to be directed to feel like it's an actual rape scene in the actual anime. But obviously she's just acting, and all the actors there are just acting. And there's a scene, oh, you're just waiting for something to happen, basically. Like, you're waiting for something to go wrong, where like an actor will go too far, or someone will get hurt, or she'll freak out, or something will happen. But it never does. And there's like this cool scene where it's like this person is like raping her, or is like hit her or something, and like acting. And then they do like cut on the thing because they need to like change the camera angle and like move all these cameras around. Then the guy just like he's frozen because he can't move. He's like in a really uncomfortable position, like basically raping her in the actual production, like in the movie. And then he's like, "Oh, sorry, I don't want to do this." And she's like, "No, don't worry about it." And it's like a very down to earth kind of funny, awkward situation to be in. But yeah, I thought that was cool. Yeah, and then she's disassociated twice now. Once when she was practicing her first line, and she pans around the room for a brief moment and sees the weird ugly guy. Yeah, he's so creepy. I love his design. Like when there's a few shots in this movie where you're like panning around, and you see that guy for a brief second, you're like, oh god, it's scary. But we know now that that's obviously Mimi, another representation of the global identity that is Mimi, that permeates this movie. Yep. Anyway. Dreams. Now, I have a few notes on dreams. So the last 25 minutes of this movie are basically all dreams. Like she dreams, then she wakes up, and then she dreams, then she wakes up, and it's like, oh my god, it's crazy. I guess everything's a dream. I guess this movie doesn't have a plot after all, which is exactly what I was hoping for. But let's see. What an interesting sequence, both production-wise and story-wise. She is about to pop in on her old idol friends who are on the radio. Yeah, I guess this is the first of the dream sequences where you're kind of like brought out of reality and you're like, oh my god, I think she just died, but she didn't. Yeah, she goes to visit her old like idol group, and they're on a radio talk show, and she like does she's just gonna see them and pop in on them, and then she sees that her alter ego, like the glowing version of her, is sitting with them, and she like freaks out, and she then chases the alter ego throughout the city, and then she gets hit by a truck. And it's just like it's the first time you see the juxtaposition between this like bright alter ego, which is like a fantasy kind of, and the dark like rainy environment of the city, and just dying, I guess, to the vehicle, which was interesting, and the vehicle being driven by the stalker itself. Yeah, it's cool, really cool scene. I really like that. But what is the next one? A dream sequence followed by a dream sequence is kind of wild. First, she gets run over by the truck in that scene. Then she relives the scene where they talk about your identity changing from moment to moment. Oh yeah, so she's like, there's another scene earlier in the movie where she's recording a film and she's like doing a scene like in for the actual film. There's like a level of meta here. And in that scene that they're recording, they're talking about how your identity changes moment to moment, which is obviously a big identity. I think is like the core theme of this movie, at least in my interpretation. But the thing is that now that she's like woken up from the dream of getting hit by a truck, she's doing the same scene again, but it's like different, like slight differences are happening, and it's kind of like, what's real? Was the last one real? Is she just remembering something that she like saw last time? She's doing it again, but she's also getting the new news because she hears there's like a typhoon or something. I don't remember what it was. I'm sure this note probably says it. It's weird. I like it. Yeah, let me see. So yeah, then she relives the scene where they talk about your identity changing from moment to moment, but this time it's not raining, and the way her scene companion complains is slightly different. She complains about the line rather than about the weather. what's interesting about the dream, what's interesting about the dreams from a plot perspective is that the first time she wakes up, she hears about the new Citizens Life Index. Yeah, that's the typhoon I was talking about, on the TV. Then the second time she wakes up, she hears about it again. So either she is still dreaming or she can see the future. Because obviously this new Citizens Life Index is like a new piece of information. So it's like, how can she possibly know it the first time if she's only hearing about it now in reality? You know, it just doesn't make sense. So I said, I guess the dreaming element has to do with yeah, I guess that's another thing. The fact that she's dreaming so much here has to do with what does it mean to be real, which is like another theme of this movie, I guess. I don't know. Then I said, somewhat of a plot twist, though there's no actual plot twist because there's no plot. The plot doesn't matter in this movie. So the plot twist is that she's actually a traumatized girl who is coping with a terrible life by pretending that they happened to make or happened to be in a movie. No, I'm reading this incorrectly. Pretending they happened in a movie that she was filming. So, you know, it's the classic like psychological movie plot twist where it's like you get the reveal that actually the main character is crazy and they're actually in a mental institution or something. That's the reveal that this movie tries to pull on you. But I don't buy it, all right? Because there is no plot. That's just another aspect of her identity is the insanity of it. I don't know. I love the appearance of the stalker. I've said that 3 times already. I love it. It's so great. The fish are alive, but the guys are dead. I have no idea what the guys are, but the fish was great. I remember when she first said that they were dead. Then when I saw them and they were alive, I was like, oh my god, the fish were alive. And I was like, wow, crazy. Something's wrong here. Then we get into the right at the end of this movie. So the older woman producer lady is wearing her dress, and I said, Jesus, scary abstract plot twist thing. It truly was scary. It's unsettling. There's a really cool shot. I'm fairly sure. Well, I'm sure I have a note here about it. Yeah, here it's actually the next note, which is the scene where the beautiful Mimi alter ego, like the glowing fairy basically, is floating down the alleyway, and then in the reflection of the glass, like when she's floating, you see the fat old woman who's like sprinting and out of breath, and it's like unsettling because it's like that's the real person behind this alter ego fairy kind of thing. Yeah, anyway, I said all of this stuff with the old woman dressing up as Mimi and only feeling like herself when she wears the wig is really great. I don't know what it means at all, but I love the way it makes me feel. Yeah, it's unsettling and it's sad, and I like those 2 feelings. The eerie soundtrack of this movie is awesome. I agree. And the final line is, no, I'm real, which is interesting. I'm sure that's like the conclusion to some interpretation you could make about the movie, but I don't care because I don't have an interpretation of the movie beyond saying, I guess, that it makes me feel like identity is like a important and complex thing, which I like. Then I have like if I did interpret a plot, this is what it is, all right? The producer lady always wanted to be an idol, and then she got jealous of Mimi because Mimi's an idol, and she has a psychotic break and wants to replace Mimi. She contacts the fan, that fanboy person, crazy person, pretending to be Mimi, so that the obsessed fan can kill the actual Mimi, and the producer lady can become the star of the show. But I think that's probably what's happening. But who cares? Is what I say. All right, we don't care about the plot here. We care about the beautiful abstraction of Mimi, the identity, and other fun stuff. And a good-looking movie is really all that matters. But anyway, that's Perfect Blue. So next up, Ahsoka. Now, I am not going to actually talk about this. I'll probably have a video on this that'll come out in the next few days, depending on when I record it, or I'll probably record it on stream, like live stream it, and then like cut it into a new video. But I'll give overall thoughts, I guess, for now. But Ahsoka is a Star Wars, like Disney Plus TV show. It has 8 episodes, and I watched it from the 22nd of August to the 3rd of October. So I think that was 8 episodes. Maybe it's 10 episodes. I don't know. Overall, this is a 3 out of 5. So there's a lot of good. There's a lot of bad. God, I probably should have prepared for this. I've given my thoughts on Ahsoka quite a lot throughout all my streams. Basically, every time an episode would air, I would talk about it. It starts off somewhat fun. Throughout the whole thing, it kind of feels kind of lifeless. There's no like real joy to it, I guess, is what I would say. But it was fun initially, seeing like a live action kind of Rebels, but that novelty wore off quickly. The Balin Skull, he was cool. I really like him, all of his speeches and stuff, and just the the subversion of someone who you would expect to be like comically evil, not comically evil, but you know, like the typical Sith. But he doesn't seem to be the typical Sith. He kind of wants more. It's interesting. I don't know. He's not a Sith at all, of course, but it's interesting. What else? My biggest disappointment is that they have the opportunity to do something really cool with the fact that they're going to a new galaxy. You know, for the first time, we're leaving the Star Wars galaxy. And it just feels like any other planet in the galaxy, nothing special there. There's even like there's native species, you know, with the what were they, mushroom people or something? I don't even remember what they were, turtle people. It's like boring. It's like, what's going on here? And the only hint of anything interesting we get is the 3 Mortis gods. I guess one, with one that's gone and one that's like something's missing, I think, from memory. They're like pointing at a mountain, and it's like the last scene in this thing, or like second last or third last or something. And the actor who's playing Balin is dead, so we can't see him anymore, which sucks. So overall, it's a bummer, all right? But it's a 3 out of 5. I mildly enjoyed it. You'll probably get some like longer video about this, so wait out for that. But next up, Take Shelter. This is a movie. It's 2 hours and 1 minute long, and I watched it on the 5th of October. So I think I found this by looking on Reddit. And I was like, oh, what's like a low budget, engaging movie or something? And I think that's how I found this, Take Shelter. And it sounded interesting. And I was like, okay, like the title, I didn't know anything about it, but, it's like, okay, low budget movie called Take Shelter, and it's engaging. And apparently a lot of people like this on Reddit. But, overall, this was a 4 out of 5. So this was I think this was very engaging. It's kind of like a mystery as well. Like the premise is that this guy is like seeing these weird things, and he keeps getting like this premonition of an oncoming storm, like this crazy wild storm. And throughout the movie, you're questioning like why is this happening to him? Is this storm going to happen? Should he be preparing for it? And I guess in the end, I mean, it's an ambiguous movie with a weird ending that is apparently, when I looked it up afterwards, it is well known for having a, what do you even call it? A controversial ending, I guess. But yeah, the big reveal is that he has schizophrenia or psychosis, or is experiencing psychosis from his schizophrenia. So it's interesting. I don't know. It was interesting for a movie to actually, I was going to say to actually commit to that, because a lot of movies have that idea, but in the end you reveal that it's not actually schizophrenia. It's like, they were right the whole time or something. In this case, what's interesting is that the reveal at the end is that it's not schizophrenia. He's like magical. He can see the future or something. I don't know. It was interesting. But I think my interpretation is that the whole sequence at the end is just a dream. So, or like more of his psychosis, I guess. Like he truly does have psychosis, and he's kind of like coping with it by thinking that all of his predictions came true or something. But anyway, so I have one overall note here, which is that it's interesting to see a movie about a typical masculine labor working kind of man who is struggling with mental illness, losing his job, relationship issues, etc. And I guess the interesting thing is that he deals with everything in as seemingly as healthy as a manner that is possible. Like, it's not like he's doing some toxically masculine things or anything. He just seems like he's actually, like, he goes to a doctor, he goes to a psychologist, like he's there for his family, it seems like he's doing everything right. But I mean, it doesn't help him at all. You know, he still struggles in the end. But yeah, and until eventually, I guess he does have a public mental breakdown. But yeah, sad movie. But anyway, miscellaneous notes now. So, the parents, I don't even know what this is. The parents, the little girl, there's 3 characters there's a lot of characters, but the main family, which you can see in this picture here, there's the wife, the daughter, and the main character who's like the man. I don't remember what his name is, but the man is what I'm going to call him. This girl is deaf, which basically I have one note here where the parents are standing in the door frame of like the girl's bedroom when she's asleep, and they're like talking pretty loudly, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, you're gonna wake her up. And then I realize she's deaf, so to talk as loudly as you want, she's not gonna wake up, which I thought was really funny. Then he keeps dreaming about the tornado that's coming. I believe it's just a recap note here. It feels like it's a movie about a man who is becoming more and more paranoid about dangers and protecting himself and his family, but this feels too straightforward. Yeah, it was too straight, because it is like the psychosis aspect. Like the paranoia, like this movie isn't a movie about toxic masculinity, which I thought it was going to be about. It is more about like dealing with mental illness when you have to provide for a family, is I guess what it was. Then I said, I wonder what happened to the girl's hearing. The parents made it sound like something happened, but she also can't speak, so it means it's probably happened since birth. And I said in brackets, look this up on Reddit, but I never looked it up. But I feel like by the end of the movie, it kind of feels like she's just, yeah, it just has always been since birth, and I probably just misunderstood something they said earlier. But yeah, there was one misunderstanding I have. I don't think I have a note on this, but it's oh jeez. At some point, this lady goes to the she goes to like an accountant or like no, some insurance like expert or something, like some representative, and she finds out that they approved an implant. And I thought she was talking about breast implants, and I was like, oh my god, why does she want like what's happening? Like what does that have to do with the rest of the movie? But she was talking about the cochlear implant for her daughter, which it made a lot more sense. But anyway, oh, there's also a very realistic doctor interaction in this movie. So when this guy has like one of his breakdowns or whatever, he goes to or one of his like psychosis episodes, he goes to a GP, like a doctor, a family doctor. And the doctor is the most like relatable, like realistic doctor I've ever seen in anything. Where like he steps in the door, like he's obviously in a rush, but he's also willing to take his time. He jokes about like he doesn't joke. He's like, oh, how's the family doing? So he makes like small talk like that. He doesn't waste time like asking him anything. For like the first thing he does is he's like, oh, tilt your head back, and he like does the measurements while he's talking to the guy, and I'm like, wow, this is really realistic. He's also he's open, like he's listening to the actual patient and stuff, whereas like it's just so realistic, as I guess. Like whereas in a lot of movies the doctors seem like experts, like where they're just preaching at you rather than listening to you, and they don't do like the small talk, and they don't do like the small checks of like looking in your ear to get like to see if it's clear or irritated or seeing the temperature or things like that, you know. What is this? Oh, also the fact that he doesn't like when the guy goes there and he gives him his symptoms, he doesn't recommend medication, and he says that, oh, it's 4 days, it's only been 4 days, it's too early to detect a pattern. So, and he gives generic advice like, are you sleeping well, you know, sleep by sleep by a certain time, don't have food after 8 p.m, stuff like that. It's such like a refreshing, like real kind of interaction of a GP on film, which I thought was really cool. Anyway, then I have my note here about, oh, is it a movie about masculinity or something? Panic attacks and mental illness are things in this movie. The storm could be about how he can't protect his family. It's possible, but I feel like it is more like about dealing with mental illness. But anyway, they do a good job of making this feel like an old movie. Yeah, but it is set in 2010. But it does feel like an old movie. Like the things they're wearing, the cars they're driving, the way they talk, like the film grain, you probably can't see it here, the colors in the movie. And I was thinking that it's like, oh yeah, it's like in the 1980s or something, but I think it is set in 2010, and I think the distinction is that this takes place in rural America, so it's kind of like the technology of, like, for instance, the thing I was thinking of that distinguishes it kind of as being definitely from the past is the fact that there's no smartphones, right? Like they have these old phones or whatever. And then I realized that if it's rural America and it's only 2011, smartphones probably aren't a common thing yet, because like the iPhone was like 2007 and it's only been a few years. Like, yeah, so that was really interesting. Then we find out that his mum had schizophrenia at 30 and now he's currently 35. So he's rightfully worried about it, I guess. This movie makes me ponder the difference between living life on your own and living life with a kid. Yeah, so the kid is, this girl is basically what complicates this man's life entirely. Because if he was just dealing with psychosis and he was living on his own, he would be able to solve his situation, or do what's best for him by just simply checking into like a mental institution or something, or like making sure that someone is looking after him, who's qualified, and he can be under their supervision. The complicating factor is that he is the sole like provider for this family, so he has to go to work and he has to struggle through this psychosis and hide it, you know, and like keep his insurance somehow, which is ridiculous. We'll talk about that. So that he can actually make sure that this girl gets her cochlear implant and make sure that she's like being able to have food on like every night, and like it's important that he's there, which is what complicates it. Which is like, interesting, you know. Is it better to have a kid or to not have a kid? I don't know. Oh, my next note here, yeah, it is insane. The fact that health insurance in America comes from your job. That is wild. Like, what? Why? I don't understand that. I'm surely there's some justification, right? Because like America is like a big famous country. Like, why does your job provide you with your health insurance? and not just you, but like your family. Like it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like health insurance is like a personal thing. Like what does your health have to do with, like why does your work, your job, your employer provide you with your means of maintaining your health? Like it's just it's so absurd. I don't understand. Like how would such a system even arise? Like what is the history behind that? It seems nonsense to me. Anyway, I don't know. He feels like no one is there for him. His counselor leaves, and the new one wants to start from the beginning again. Yeah, so there's this initial counselor. He's initially hesitant about like talking to a counselor. He goes in and he's already read the DSM-5 or DSM-4 or whatever it is at this time. And he lists the symptoms for schizophrenia, and he like lists like 3 of them out, and you need like 2 of them or something. I don't know what it is, but he basically, I think he meets the criteria, or he's like very close to meeting the criteria. And he's like obviously done way more research than is necessary for this meeting, because the counselor can't make a diagnosis and they're not even a psychologist. So it's like he's just talking to someone who's there to like listen to him, I guess. And they can recommend him to a psychiatrist or psychologist, but they're not one themselves. So initially he's already hesitant. And then that that counselor leaves, I think to get like more education or something. And then a new one comes in, and they start with the exact same questions that the first person did. So it's like all that was like all the stuff. He was already hesitant. He talked to this person and he felt like he was getting somewhere, but then they leave and now he has to start from scratch again. And it's kind of like, God damn, it really feels like no one is there for him, which is sad. Then I said, it's so sad because he's really trying his best to keep things together. Yeah, the main character in this movie is a good person. Like, there's no moment where you're like, oh, he's doing he's doing something so reprehensible, or like he's being a bad like father or something. Like he's a good person. He's trying to be as good as he can throughout this entire movie, which is really refreshing, I guess. Then they go into this shelter here, it's the whole movie here, takes shelter from the storm because he thinks the storm is coming, but the storm comes and goes and the big tragedy that he was hoping for never happens. But the one thing I don't understand is that when they're in the bunker, they have to wear gas masks, and he like puts gas masks on them, and I'm like, I don't understand. Like, what does that have to do with the storm? Is he assuming that like the storm is gonna take out the oxygen or something? I got no idea. I don't know what was going on there. That was weird. The storm he was building up and anticipating for came and went, which was kind of cool. Then I talk about the ending here, which is basically, it turns out that his visions are true. Like it's like a few months or a few weeks in the future or whatever. He's on like some vacation, and then he looks into the beach, the horizon, and he sees the storm approaching. The storm he'd been dreading with like all those like crazy like hurricanes or whatever, not typhoons. And the family sees it too, and it's kind of like, oh my god, it is real. The storm is real. But yeah, the thing I guess that on face value that seems dumb, and that definitely would ruin the movie, of course, in my opinion. But the thing is that the whole time skip at the end seems very out of place, because the whole time this movie they're complaining about money. Like he's lost his job, he doesn't have money to do anything. All the money is going toward just surviving basically at this point. And now they're like comfortable enough monetarily to go on vacation, and he's seeing a psychologist, I think, like at the end of this movie. And it kind of seems too good to be true, which is, I think, what leads to the idea that this is his fantasy of like what he wishes would happen, but it's not really going to happen. But that's just my interpretation of the ending. Apparently it is a very contentious ending. That's the word I was looking for, contentious, earlier. I think I said controversial. Yeah, when I looked it up. But yeah, that's Take Shelter. So next up, Run, Lola, Run. So this is a movie. This was 1 hour and 21 minutes long, which is, interestingly, I think that's the exact same run length as Perfect Blue. Crazy. And I watched this on the 6th of October. So this is crazy, isn't it? We're only up to the 6th of October, and I've already watched so many things. But this is it's a great movie, right? 4 out of 5. And I looked it up on Letterboxd before, and I saw that Kai Entertainment had seen this. So I messaged him, like, Kai, like, you've seen this movie? And he's like, yeah, I watched it in school. So apparently this is like a school movie or something, like one you like study in English class, which is kind of like weird. I think it makes me like it less. I don't know. I thought it was a cool movie, but now it's like, oh, it's a cool movie and they study it in school, But I guess the oh my god, what was the movie? What was the other one I watched? The one with John Proctor. That movie. Oh my god, I can't remember what it's called. Jesus Christ, it's gonna kill me. Not The Tempest. You know what I'm talking about. The one with the Salem witch trials. Oh my god, I can't remember what it's called. That one is also like a school thing, and that was really good. Anyway, 4 out of 5. This is an incredibly unique, eclectic movie. There's a lot of different styles. There's a lot of weird, like, insert shots. It's just weird, all right? but it's incredibly engaging. It's nice and short. It is a foreign movie, which I like, a German movie. And I didn't remember that until I revisited these notes before I like recorded this. Which is funny. I always forget like if I watch like subs or dubs for things, because to me they're in my mind, they're like the same thing. But anyway, yeah, it's so unique. It's probably the most unique movie I've watched. Like it has animation, like when she's running down the thing, and it like transitions to like real people as well, and it's like, oh my god. And like the opening scene in this is like a cloud of people, and it's, I don't know, it's so weird. What a cool movie. Anyway, overall, I said it's a fast, fun, and very cool eclectic editing style movie, which, yep, true. And oh yeah, so I said I found this by looking at Reddit, and I was like, oh, what's like a very unique, engaging movie? And this was what was recommended. And I heard the title, Run Lola Run, and I was like, this is instant, I have to watch this. That sounds so great. And it truly is really great. Just, I would watch a movie of just her running the whole time. Like, it's just so engaging. Like, you don't need any other plot elements with her dad or like the boyfriend or Robin, the place, or hell, or whatever they end up in when the room goes red. Just her running was just so engaging. I don't know. Like, I was in from the beginning to end. It was great. Perfect length as well. Like, this didn't go too short or too long or anything. I thought Now 21 was great. Anyway, so now miscellaneous notes, I guess. So the transition to the girl running as an animation was cool. Very true. With the techno intense music. The music is great in this as well. It's perfectly matched. Great use of left-right audio channel when the girl is figuring out who to contact. Yeah, she has this thing where she's like in her mind palace and she's like, oh my god, I have like 30 minutes. I need to figure out who to contact. And you hear voices in like your left and right ears. And it's like, it's a very effective use of like, the channels. Unlike something else I watched. I don't remember what it was. I think it was Ahsoka or something. No, it couldn't be Ahsoka. I watched something where I heard something in my left ear, and I was like, that's a weird... Oh, maybe it was Mishoku Tensei, where they were using a single audio channel, and it felt like completely out of place. In this movie, it's really great. Anyway, a very eclectic movie in terms of medium, frame rate, colors, lighting, editing, etc. Yep. All the people she runs past, we see their perspectives after she's gone, which is kind of weird. Like, we see this lady, I think she like becomes a nun or something, like we see the future. And then I guess the visions also change, like every time she like redoes the run. Yeah, it's kind of cool. I like that. Like a vision of their past and future as edited flashes. For instance, someone gets into a car accident, has surgery, and then dies. Yeah, it's so cool. This movie is just like, it's sold by two things, I guess. One is just the style, just like the flair, just like the weird things it does. Like, it doesn't need to show you the alternate histories or futures of someone, but it's just like a fun, cool thing. And it's also just sold by the fact that it's just so engaging. Like, it never stops. It never feels like, oh, we're stopping. Well, actually, it feels like it's stopping, but one point at every loop, which is at the end of each loop, where it's like, oh, now we're in hell again, or the red room, or whatever it is. I don't know what it is, but yeah. Anyway. I wonder if she's going to be running the whole movie. The premise so far is that she has 20 minutes to get $100,000 of her currency for her friend who lost the money to a homeless man on the train. Yeah, the premise of this movie is cool as well. And when she screams, it breaks glass. You know, another one of these quirky things in this movie, which I really like. Then she goes and visits the dad, and the dad being open with Lola when they're walking down the hallway about how he's decided he's going to leave Lola and her mum because they're always just framing him as the uncaring workaholic father, and now she's demanding this money from him. It's the last straw. It was great. I didn't say it's great at the end of that note, but it is great. All right, I like that scene. I could probably watch a movie, I already said that, of her just running with cool techno music. Damn, she dies halfway through the movie. Then we flash to some parallel hell-like red place where she's in bed with her boyfriend. Then we rewind to the beginning of the run again. Now we're seeing the future for these people she runs into, which are new. True. I hope this ends being a science fiction movie where she's some sort of time-traveling entity. It's kind of cool, low-concept sci-fi, or whatever you call it. Like, yeah, like light sci-fi or something. I don't know what the red room, like, I don't really know what this is. I feel like probably it's studied in English class because it is quite open-ended and you can take whatever you want from it. I decided to not take anything from it, all right? I just found it to be a fun watch, and I had no deep thought in this whatsoever. Unlike Perfect Blue, where it made me think of a million things, this made me think of nothing, and it was great. Basically every run, events slightly change. And for instance, the second time, her conversation with her dad, it also fails to convince him, but it fails for like a separate reason, which is cool. I said, obviously, there's no way this is going to succeed, but it's still fun to watch, which is funny because it does succeed in the end. So I was wrong. Lamau, there's a whole SWAT team outside. Yeah, basically she like goes to the bank and she like pretends she robs it. She does rob it, and she steps outside and you're like, oh my god, she's being caught. There's an entire like SWAT team or like people here, and they tell her to get away because like there's a person in there who's like doing bad things or something, and they think she's they think there's like a robber in there, and they don't realize she's the robber, which was great. Anyway, and then apparently, yeah, I didn't remember it was the second loop, but in the second loop apparently, the guy who broke the glass, like I think it was the guy in the fire truck or something, he ends up running over her boyfriend, which is really funny. And then we have to go to the loop another time, which was really cool. Then I said, here we go again, woohoo, because I loved it. And then I said, it's an interesting way of characterizing people, where every rerun, we see a new aspect of the characters, or we see the same aspect to show that the characters are static, basically. And through that, through seeing different aspects on different loops, we kind of get the whole idea of a character more fully, I guess, which is really cool. The people are interesting. Oh, the people are intersecting in different ways this time because she stayed on the guy's hood of the car for a bit longer, which means he didn't get in the accident, which means that she pissed off the bike guy who sold it to the homeless man, and the guy with the car picked up her dad, and the homeless guy ran into the dad and caused an accident. So it's all coming together, all right? It's like a domino effect in this movie, which is fun. There's this scene in this casino. We're getting toward the end of these notes. She goes to a casino, basically, to win the money. And she screams. But firstly, like, everyone is, like, the security is, like, approaching her, even before she screams, I think. And I'm like, why is the security approaching her? Like, what's going on here? She's here legitimately. I just didn't understand. Like, was she cheating or something? Like, I don't understand casino rules. I haven't been to that many casinos. But anyway, she screams so loudly in the casino that he breaks all the glass and everyone shuts their ears, which is funny. She wins and everyone is standing around, and I don't understand casino etiquette. Why is everyone freaked out? Is it because she screamed? Why did the security ask for her to go with him before she even made a second bet? Yeah, I just didn't understand anything that went on in that casino, basically. But it was fun. Then her boyfriend feels bad for robbing the homeless guy, even though it's his money, even though I guess it's not really his money. But he gives him a gun as compensation because the homeless guy asked for it. Yeah, it was pretty funny. And she heals a guy in the ambulance by holding his hand. Yeah, so I guess she is kind of a supernatural entity. I don't know. It's fun. And in the end, she's not happy. And I assume because she ran all that way for nothing. So Run, Lola Run was all pointless in the end because the boyfriend ended up getting back the money. But I guess he wasn't pointless because the only reason he got the money is because of the journey she took, all right? The way she transformed the world by stopping on that guy's hood for a little bit longer than usual ended up resulting in the boyfriend getting the money. So, yeah. So that was Run, Lola Run. Next up, Paprika. So this is a movie. It's an hour and 30 minutes long, and I watched it on the 7th of October. Another Satoshi Kon movie, which I had no idea until I watched this, but I did not like this movie, all right? This is a 2 out of 5. It is nothing like Purple Blue, all right? It's no Purple Blue whatsoever. It also doesn't look anywhere near as good as Purple Blue. I assume because it's more modern and they were using new modern techniques that look ugly compared to Perfect Blue. But overall, this was very boring, is what I would say. Whereas Perfect Blue felt like I had a lot of like it was abstract and there was not much to understand there, but I felt like I was close to understanding it. In this one, it feels like it's just completely like very abstract, and I just like it doesn't feel like it's worth understanding it, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, but one thing that is great about this movie is the title, Paprika. So before I'd seen the movie, I had heard of this movie for a long time, just the name, like Paprika. I think it's really cool. I have no idea what it means. Like, it's just the name of this character, basically. Like, I don't know if it has some deeper meaning than that, like why her name is that in terms of like themes or anything, but it just sounds cool, right? Paprika, what a cool movie name idea. Anyway, I didn't know anything about this movie. During my stream, I found out that it's directed by the same guy who did Perfect Blue. True. I don't remember who told me. Was it Heath or someone? I don't remember. I just have like a few miscellaneous notes here talking about how just miscellaneous things, but generally I didn't enjoy this much at all. I have no idea what's going on. A circus that has real magic and people with female bodies and male faces, traveling through movies, etc. Oh, it's a dream, is what I said. Okay. This movie may end up being too artsy for my tastes. Yeah, I think that is an issue. I said like Arcane. I think this is an Arcane issue, and maybe I'll include it in my eventual Arcane video. Okay. It feels like the wackiness in this movie, like the weird, quirky, like dream elements and stuff. It feels like all of that wackiness and weird directing is intentional. Like I feel the intent behind it, which makes it cringe because it's like when someone is acting dumb or something, and you know that they're acting dumb. But in this way, it's like you know that they're intentionally creating this weirdness or wackiness, and it's cringe in that kind of way. And Arcane is a similar thing where it's like you know that they're trying so hard to make it look really cool or like really well directed, you know, in most people's eyes, and it kind of comes off as cringe. Another example here I said is like just when someone is analyzing how deep and meaningful song lyrics are, that's also kind of cringe, where it's like when like the words of a song match up with the are too like literal or something. I don't know. It's like weird. There's something weird there, but this movie was definitely felt manufactured and cringe in that kind of way. Anyway, I said this isn't a very appealing art style. Absolutely, it just doesn't look very good. The mechanism of action is the problem with this technology. Oh yeah, there is also like a little like science fiction like weirdness to this movie, I guess. Whereas like on one hand, it treats the science as kind of important, but at the other hand, it just doesn't make much sense, I guess. I don't know. The issue is that like if someone can invade anyone's dream, basically, even if you're not wearing the device, then like how does that happen? Like does the device like implant something in you permanently, or is it just like some magic that's going on? Like I didn't understand it. I feel like this movie just didn't make much sense to me either. So I think that's kind of the issue. I said it's either a boring movie or I'm just completely lost and confused. Yeah, I'm leaning towards it's a boring movie. I feel like it's intentionally confusing, or not intentionally confusing, but it's intentionally abstract kind of, but it just doesn't work for me. Maybe kind of like a Fully Cooley kind of situation. I don't know. The marching toy band. Oh, this is also one thing. There's a few things, right, that I like in this movie. I think they're all coming up in these notes, looking at them here. But one of them is the marching toy band music. I really like the music for that marching toy band. I can't recall it right now, but it's like it's a weird catchy tune. I don't know. I really liked it. And I said it reminds me of the God Hand panel from Fantasia. Yeah, this like marching band reminds me of the one. I don't remember who it is, but one of the God Hand basically in this like traveling party where it's like there's like weird like creatures behind them and it's like they're celebrating and he's inside like a giant head with like a witch's hat or something. It reminded me of that. Which I think also that is like referencing a famous painting or something. So I think it's all like references on references, and I'm like, oh, that was really cool. So you know what? There's some good in this movie, which is why it's a 2 out of 5 and not a 1 out of 5. Little fairy Paprika was cute. True. If anything is cute in a movie, you know what? It instantly gets 1 point. So there we go, 2 out of 5. The idea that dreams are fighting back humans invading them is cool. That is a cool idea. The movie has cool scenes, like the police guy. But yeah, there's this like repeating scene that you get in this movie many times where it's like the police officer and he's remembering, or not remembering, but he sees this guy like falling in like a hallway or something. And you see that a few times. It's like, that looks really cool. What else was there? The movie has cool scenes, like the police guy. Oh, this was another one. So remembering the movie he made when he was 17. And the pervert guy sticking his hand inside Paprika and tearing her skin to show the woman underneath. Yeah, that was also really cool. There are some like mind-bending visuals in this, I guess. It's just the intention comes across as so like, the intention is so plain that it just makes it cringe. I don't know. Another thing, all these scenes feel so disconnected throughout this movie. Yeah, there's like a bunch of cool scenes, but they're also disconnected. Anyway. For how surreal this movie is, it does feel like there's a lot of boring and bland shots directing wise. Yeah, it does feel like sometimes there's just like a static shot, or like when there's conversations, it'll go like shot, reverse shot, or whatever. And it's like, it's kind of boring. Lamau, he eats her. Oh, okay. Yeah, this line alone, I could imagine myself in another universe, all right? I could give this movie a 5 out of 5 based on this line alone, where I don't know what you call him, the villain, I guess. He eats Paprika, And then he says, needs a bit more spice, maybe a little paprika. And I'm like, this is the greatest name drop of anything that's ever happened, right? Like, you know, when the anime like OP plays in like a movie and it's like, oh my god, this is like the best thing ever. This is another one of those things where it's like the perfect name drop, where it's like the name of the movie, the name of the character. It's also a pun on the idea that paprika is like a spice, and it's like acknowledging the fact that her name is like a spice. It's like, oh my god, this is genius. 5 out of 5, right? Anyway, if the movie ended there, like if he said that line, like just maybe a little paprika and like credits roll, I unironically, I think I would have given this a 5 out of 5. That's so great. Like that's something that I would just like defend for all of time. Anyway, I like when the baby randomly ate the wind. Yeah, there's another cool sequence in this movie, right? I'll acknowledge, where right at the end there's like the dreams have invaded reality and it's all like dark and stormy, I think. And this like there's this giant baby and it like grows up and it eats the wind and it grows up more, and then it eats the dream and like all these elements of a dream, and it grows up more, and then it eats the actual chairman and it grows up even more, and it's like it's like I don't know, it's like a cool abstract scene. I don't know, you know, I want more things like that, which are like weird and wacky and cool, unlike weird and wacky and intentional, you know, cringe. Anyway, after finishing Perfect Blue, I was very excited to watch more anime movies, which is very true. Perfect Blue was so good that I was like, if this is what the anime genre can do for movies, maybe I should watch more. But Paprika completely killed any excitement, and I remember why I don't tend to watch anime movies. So yeah, anyway. This movie was not it, right? But anyway, that is Paprika. Next up, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, 1978. So this is a movie. It's 1 hour and 27 minutes long, and I watched it on the 8th of October. So I wonder if you can guess how I how I heard about this movie and decided to watch it. And if you can't guess, the answer is it's from the Chainsaw Man opening. So I was at this point in the month, on the 8th of October, and I was like, you know what? Why didn't I watch like one of those like famous movies, like one that everyone's seen? So I went to the Chainsaw Man opening and I like looked at I went to like a breakdown that showed like all the movies in the Chainsaw Man opening, and I like sorted them by IMDb score and like runtime or whatever. And I was like, I want a short runtime and a high IMDb score. And then I saw one called Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. And I was like, who cares about all this sorting and ranking or whatever? It's a short movie and it sounds awesome. Let me watch it. And this was a 1 out of 5, right? This is the worst movie I've ever seen. It's tough, right? This is like what you would call a bad movie. Or I'm sure it's like an intentionally satirical movie or something, right? I'm sure they knew that this was a bad movie. Like it felt like a student film or something. Now sometimes bad movies can be good. I don't have an example for that. I guess in terms of other stories, for me, I guess Ruby is that, where Ruby is bad. Like those first few seasons, for instance, or volumes, they're just like, it feels like I could make that, right? But I love it. Like Ruby is like very close to a 5 out of 5 in my opinion. This is not that. This is bad, but not in an enjoyable way. Although there are some interesting scenes. Like I guess for most of the time, this movie I was bored. Is I guess what I would say. But anyway, it's my overall thoughts of Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. But let me go through my miscellaneous notes. I haven't read through this one, I don't think. So we'll see. But I said I love the title concept. Oh, I said I would like the title concept if it was taken seriously and it wasn't a comedy. True, but it is kind of a comedy. I don't know if it's intentional. I feel like it surely is intentional. But anyway, I said, is this a parody? They mention Alfred Hitchcock's Birds in the opening crawl and it sounds silly. I think they're like thank his birds or something, which sounds weird. I said it even has a goofy theme song. Yeah, I should have looked up if this is like a parody or satire or something, and I feel like it has to be, but I don't know. I always say things like that where I'm like, let me look this up, and I just never look it up, right? So if you've seen this movie, then comment down below, right? I also didn't look up how popular this is. I wonder if it is like a very cult classic, like, or maybe it's like even well known. I have no idea. But anyway, if they have these long opening credits, it must be a union movie, right? I don't know. That was my big thought. Trying to like counter the idea that it's some indie film. Like maybe if it has credits and they have to credit all the actors, isn't that like a union related thing? I don't know. Anyway, the sound mixing is terrible. Feels like a high school student film with a big budget. True. Jesus Christ, they crashed a helicopter. I don't even know what that is, but I'm assuming the tomatoes probably crashed a helicopter. You know, there's a lot of wacky stuff in this. Lamau, there's a Japanese man and they dub over his performance in English. Yeah, there is. I don't get it. I don't know what's going on. Like, I don't know what's like intentional and what's not. But yeah, there's a man. He, I believe they said it is like Japanese or something. And whenever he talks, you hear like this stereotypical, weird, like completely different accent, completely different voice of just some man doing a dub of his voice in American English. So I don't know what happened there. There's also an American Senate committee, and they're all British actors, or like they're talking with a British accent. So I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. I said this movie feels like 1 or 2 steps away from not being a bad movie. It's like, but when I say bad here, I mean like poor production quality. Like it's not a lost cause. I think the overdubbing, there's a few things that are overdubbed, but for instance, the Japanese man that I was talking about, like fix up small things like that and make it feel authentic. And I think this could be taken like pretty seriously as like a low budget movie, you know, but there's like weird things like that where it's like, why are they doing that? And maybe it is for comedy's sake or something. I don't know. But if you want it to be taken seriously, if you make a few small changes, I think it could come across as something like that, like something much better. A few scenes where it feels like actors are holding back laughter. Yeah, true. This random guy in a flower shirt starts singing like he's in a musical, directly looking at the camera. I kind of like that. That was kind of cool. All right. There's a few scenes in this that I think that I enjoy. But I think it's still, yeah, if something is going to get a 1 out of 5 on this list, nothing has yet, it's going to be this. All right. I don't think I'm going to watch anything this year other than this. There's going to be 1 out of 5. So I think it deserved this spot. All right. Anyway, that was a cool musical scene where he looks at the camera and it's like a whole song that he sings, like crazy. And then they overdub. There's a dog basically in this movie. And they overdub him actually speaking. The dog says, and I quote, or actually the boy says, "What's wrong, Spot?" And then the dog says, "Gosh, Billy, I don't know. I'll go have a look." And I'm like, huh, okay, that's really weird. There's talking dogs in this universe. Kind of makes sense, I guess, with the talking tomatoes and I guess talking carrots at the end. Not really the talking tomatoes, but holy shit, they've captured a giant tomato. True. That's probably the one in this background image here where it's like you can't see it behind the text, but it's like chained up. It's kind of cool. I really do like the concept of this movie of just like a ridiculous Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. Like, and then they're not even like sentient. I mean, they are sentient, but they're not even like communicating with people. They just make like weird noises. Like, that's a really cool idea. Like, I love the first scene in this movie where it's like you're in a woman's kitchen and the tomato kills her. It's just like, the rest is like, most of it's just boring, you know? But it's just such a cool concept. Anyway, the scenes where the tomatoes attack are the best parts of the movie. It's so absurd. That's exactly what I'm saying. The attack scenes, like in the first scene of this movie, are so great. I love them a lot. Taking this like unserious threat of a tomato extremely seriously is awesome. And then we get the best, absolute best joke in this movie, which is that there's this black guy and he's dressed up as Hitler, and he's disguised himself as a tomato. Like he's in like, I think he's in like a tomato suit or something. He's got like these branches on his head or something. He's sitting with 2 giant tomatoes, like bigger than human-sized tomatoes, and the tomatoes buy it and they think he's a tomato. And I'm like, Jesus, this is great. This is actually funny. Then what is it? So then he accidentally outs himself because he brings up, like, he asks if someone could pass the ketchup. And obviously that's insulting if you're a tomato because, you know, the ketchup comes from tomatoes and it's like, we wouldn't eat ketchup. And he outs himself. The black Hitler tomato dressing man gives him away. But anyway, there's a full-blown war scene where they're setting off explosions and rolling down tanks. Yeah, this movie ends in like a war between humans and tomatoes. It's crazy. So overall, this feels like a satire of politics, war, and news. Yeah, definitely. I wonder if we'll find out why the short guy was spared by the tomatoes and why the gunman was trying to kill him. And then I found out here. So I said, so it turns out the press secretary guy wants to kill him because he knows some dirt on him or something. I guess the implication is that the press secretary either created the tomatoes or knows how to stop them. And then I said, turns out that they get turned back into normal tomatoes when they hear a song, which is also the song that was playing when the guy was in his car and he scared off the 2 tomatoes. And I guess in reality, they got turned back into normal tomatoes and we didn't see them. But anyway, even just showing them the sheet music works at turning them back into tomatoes, which is really funny. Awesome. Anyway, the tomatoes are kind of like zombies where it feels like if they bite you, then you're marked for death. Like you're instantly going to die, or eventually you'll die, I guess. Maybe not instantly, but yeah, anyway. Twice or maybe a few times, there's text scrolling at the bottom of the screen talking about sales for a couch for $2, for example, which morphs into them screaming as they get attacked by tomatoes. I said, what the fuck is this? It's like a news broadcast, but just happens at weird times when other things are happening in this story. It's a weird movie, right? I don't think there's any cohesion to it. I guess a bit of an issue. Then we got the climax of the movie, where they stomp on the paralyzed corpses of the sentient tomatoes viciously and brutally, and they all cheer. And it's like, am I meant to cheer the fact that you just like stomped on these sentient beings? Like, Jesus Christ, it's like a jarring disconnect between the tone of the movie and what's actually going on. Anyway, but the real last scene is when you've got two characters, all right, Dixon and Lois, which are written here. I would not remember their names if it was not written here. And they excitedly say each other's names, and then Dixon starts singing, and he has the most striking and amazing opera voice I've ever heard coming out of that man's mouth. It was crazy. And then you get Lois's like high pitch opera voice, and she's singing, and then they swap voices, and like Dixon has a high pitch voice and Lois has a low pitch voice. It's wild, you know. What an ending! I like the ending. That was kind of cool. But and then the final scene is the fact that we find out that the carrots were just waiting for the tomatoes to leave. So they say, "All right, you guys, they've gone now." So the implication is that the carrots are going to take over, and next movie will be called like Attack of the Killer Carrots or something. But anyway, that was Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. Yeah, not the best. All right, so then next up we have The Green Room, or Green Room 2015, which is a movie. It's an hour and 35 minutes, and I watched it on the 8th of October. So believe it or not, we've seen all these movies, and we're still on the 8th of October. My goodness, what a crazy month it is. So this is a horror movie, you know, in the theme of Halloween. I believe it's an A24 movie, and I've had it on my list for quite a long time, which is how I first heard about this. But let me think. Overall, this is a really good movie, 4 out of 5. So, number one, it's engaging. You know, I love my engaging movies, all right? And I never really know how to describe it beyond saying it's engaging. Number two, it's suspenseful, all right? You don't really, you don't know where it's going at all because, you know, people die on like left, right, and center in this, like at the beginning, at the middle, at the end. And I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Are they going to survive all the way until the end and then just die at the end? Like, suspenseful. And it has Patrick Stewart in it. I couldn't believe it. I had no idea he was in this when he showed up. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. He's playing a villain. He's like a, I don't know, just like the only other thing I've ever seen him in as like a main role, I guess, is, you know, X-Men. And that one, was it Macbeth, I think, that Bacon showed me? I don't know. So I'm not really that big of a fan of him, but it was really cool. I was like, oh my God, that's that guy. He's in this movie. That was really cool. Anyway, this is a great movie, but I don't really know what to say beyond just saying it's engaging. It's a good horror movie. What can I say? Anyway, my actual notes here. So I said, I think these are more like miscellaneous notes of when I was going through, like I just, whatever I thought of came up. So the first one, so far, this movie is not what I expected. For some reason, I was expecting a single room movie like Cube. Yeah, I guess the visual, what do you say, the poster, I guess, and the name Green Room kind of implied to me that it was just going to be like a single room kind of small budget movie. It probably is small budget is what I would assume, because it is like taking place mainly in one location. And there's not many, it's not like visual effects or any like ambitious, like crazy shots or anything. So I imagine it's probably low budget, but it's definitely not a single room. Anyway, that was my first note. I said, I hope this isn't about music. Yeah. So this basically the movie follows a band, and the first, like, I don't know, like 20 minutes of this movie is like the band, I think they show up at this guy's house who's like said they've booked them for a job and they're going to be able to perform, but then he has to cancel it or something. And then they get sent somewhere else. And I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be a music movie about like the power of like friendship in bands or something. But it was nothing like that at all. Oh my God, this idiot tried to call the police. The guy's already stabbed. Yeah, basically you get this plot. It's not a plot twist. I guess it kind of is the definition of a plot twist, right? It just doesn't, there wasn't much of a plot at that point to really say it twisted. But yeah, you get the first beginning stuff in this movie, which is about a band. And then when they're performing at this like Nazi bar or neo-Nazi bar or something, and extreme like right-wing fascist people or something, I think that's what it's described as, they go in the back room, you know, after their set, and they see a stabbed body basically. And that's like the twist of the movie. Not the twist, but it's like, that's where you know that this movie is like, you know, it's suddenly going to take a change in direction here. And that was really cool. I like that a lot. And I was on the edge of my seat from then onwards, is what I would say. But yeah, my note there was, oh my god, this idiot tried to call the police. Crazy, you know? If you walk into a room and there's a dead body and there's a guy holding a knife there and it's like a bunch of intimidating people, maybe don't instantly call the police. Maybe run away first and then call the police. I don't know. It's pretty crazy. Then, this is one of those movies where the protagonists are completely unlikable. I don't think I definitely don't stand by that anymore. There's when I think of unlikable characters in movies, the first thing I think of is Chappie. Now, this was this movie about a robot, like an AI robot kind of thing. I remember it had like Hugh Jackman in it, I think, from memory. He was like in a mech. I don't know, it was a weird movie. I don't remember it that much. But yeah, my problem with that movie at the time was that we're positioned to follow these like three people who are basically bullying and grooming this robot to be this bad like person. And all those characters are fundamentally unlikable. Like, if all of them died, I would be happy. Maybe they all died. I don't actually remember what happened to them. But that was my main criticism of the movie back then, where I was like, I don't enjoy watching these characters because they're just unlikable people. Now, maybe if I revisited that today, with my, my wiser mind and more experienced soul, maybe I would enjoy that a lot. But back then, that's what I was criticizing. And here, that's the same kind of feeling I got when I was watching the beginning of this, because it's like there's these people, they're like, they're not pretty, they're not very intelligent, they're like fighting with each other, they're clearly like not the most ethical of people, and I don't know, they're making dumb decisions and stuff, and I just don't like them. Like, they're fundamentally unlikable. But I think later on, like, I definitely don't stand by that anymore. Like, the more you get to know them, they're all interesting, you know? Not that I could name any of their names or anything, but I did enjoy them, so I don't stand by this note. But anyway, I realized I was tapping my leg when the guy in the movie was tapping his leg. True, this is an intense movie, that's what I would say, where, I guess particularly this scene that I've got, what do I even point to? This scene here, where what's happening is basically they're trapped in this room. I don't know who I'm recapping this for, you know, like if you've seen the movie, you're probably already watching this, and if you haven't seen it, you're probably not watching this, but for the sake of completion here, they're in a room with a dead body, and they've like locked themselves in. They have a gun, and they've got basically they think they have the leverage in this situation, because if they get out, then they can call the police and they'll win or whatever. They'll be safe. And on the other end, there's a single Patrick Stewart guy who's like in charge of this like neo-Nazi concert place, or neo-Nazi bar, I guess. And he tells them to basically hand over the gun. Well, I don't even remember what the exchange was. Basically, they had to hand over something so that they could get something in return, whatever it was. They do it, like he sticks his hand out, and there's like these two assassin, basically, people, and they go and they like cut his arm off, and I'm like, they're tapping my leg, and I'm freaking out, and it's crazy. It's crazy. So much blood and everything. It's a gruesome movie, but intense is what I would say based on that note. Anyway. Yeah, this has been intense since the scene where they figured out the stabbing. True. Intense is probably a great word for this movie. Then I said, holy shit, is that Patrick Stewart? He's a big part of what makes this movie so great. It's a great performance. I absolutely stand by that. And I don't even know what it is about it. It's just like, he's so authentic in playing this like Nazi cult leader, basically. So I like it a lot. Interesting that the owner of the place, which when I say that, I mean Patrick Stewart, realizes that they're all screwed. He's also smart. Like, he's always aware of like what's going on, I guess, which is cool. It's a little hard to keep track of the dialogue and terminology, but I think I'm doing okay for now. Yeah, that's probably my biggest criticism with this movie. There's a lot of, I don't even know what you say, like, there's obviously Nazis in this or whatever, and I don't really know anything. Like, sometimes they use these fancy terms, and like at one point they're talking about like they got red ribbons or something, and I figured out eventually that's like some promotional thing. It's like when you get trusted, but there's like a few things throughout this movie, like terminology, that I'm just like not following, or maybe it's just like, it could also be like dialogue that I'm not following, even though I had subtitles on. I don't know, but I think the understanding what's going on at every particular moment and understanding the motivations of all the characters, I guess, is kind of tough. Like by the end of this, for example, I think I do have a note on this. One of the bad people, one of the Nazi people trying to kill them, turns to their side, and I just like, even by now I still don't really understand why. Like as far as I understand, I think the main owner guy of this actual place, it's Patrick Stewart, I think he didn't tell the guy who defected that that the girl he was in love with was trapped in that room. I don't know, something like that, but I really couldn't figure it out. But anyway, that was my number one complaint. Then, oh my god, when the lights go out, what do you do now? Yeah, there is a lot of crazy scenes like that where they need to flush him out of this room, basically, and they turn the lights off to do that. And it's kind of like, well, what do you do at that point? Like, do you all freak out? Like, someone's pointing a gun at someone? Like, well, what happens, you know? I said this is very engaging and intense. True, what an original note. if I'm in this situation, I'm just accepting I'm gonna die and ask for a quick death. Yeah, absolutely. Like they are basically trapped in this room. It is an unwinnable situation. Like you are surrounded. You're in a territory that you just are not familiar with, and the person who literally owns the place is surrounded by regulars who are regularly in this place, and they want to kill you. And it's just like, what do you do? Like you're gonna die. Like either you go out there and they torture you to death, or you just like please plead with them to please like say I give up. Please just kill me quickly or something, you know. But then I have my next note here, which is oof. Later on, he says that the guy who owns the place says that like when they actually like, shoot this guy and take him down, he's like, just let him bleed and suffer for a bit so that we have a better time of death when the police eventually show up. So I was like, oh man, I guess they would just torture me. Maybe I would have been making the wrong move by just surrendering and asking for a quick death. But anyway, goddamn pit bulls, man. Yeah, they use pit bulls to attack people, and I hate pit bulls. Right? I guess I generally hate dogs in general. That's more of a separate discussion. Ooh, they miscalculated because so this is the note I just had no idea about. I said, ooh, they miscalculated because they didn't realize one of the Nazis was in love with the girl that died. Well, I guess that makes more sense. The girl that died rather than the one who's still alive. And then I said, or something like that. I don't know. Maybe if someone's seen Green Room, you can explain it to me, or I could like spend 2 seconds and look it up on like Google, but I didn't. The surprise shotgun was insane. Yeah, like, I mean, there's a lot of like really gruesome, cool things that happen in this. One of them was that you think they're going to get away, and then out of nowhere, this guy is like, he's the center of the focus on the screen, and his like head gets blown off because the shotgun randomly that you don't expect, and it's like a quiet scene out of nowhere. This big blast goes off, and he's dead. And it's like, whoa. It's like, oh my god, he was I think the trader as well who died. So it's like, oh my god, we lost our trader. We're screwed. So it's an up and down, constant thriller, suspense, intense movie, which I like a lot. The dog ran. It's a loose end. I don't know why I wrote that down. Why did he draw the tattoos on his face? Yeah, at the end, basically, there's one guy and there's one girl, and I think there's like one trader guy who like betrayed the Nazis as well. The two, like the guy and the girl, the original two, they put like tattoos on their face and they like draw things, and I don't really understand why. I feel like it probably ties into something to do with their band, even though the girl wasn't in the band. I don't really know, but or maybe it was just to distract them. I don't know, but it was strange. Blonde girl is great. Yeah, she's the girl that I was talking about of those two people. I don't think she's in this frame, but yeah, I thought she was great. I think my only issue with this movie is that I don't understand the relationships between all the Nazis and the other band people. Yeah, for example, I don't know why the final guy who was cleaning the place didn't attack the protagonists and went with them at the end. Yeah, that's my number one complaint. I feel like I just missed some things. Lamau, they're literally speaking German. Yeah, true. The Nazis are speaking German. Isn't that crazy? It's funny. Oh, this is actually a really cool line. So at the end, basically, to spoil this movie for anyone who hasn't seen it, I doubt you can follow what's going on based on my very limited recap I've given, a very poor recap. But the two people who've been trapped in this room, they eventually they run away. They're able to run away thanks to the help of this one trader guy who joins them. And they eventually find Patrick Stewart, who's the owner of this place, who was the one trying to kill them, so they couldn't go to the police. They eventually find him. But it's daylight now. Like, it's no longer a dark, terrifying night in this dark room and where they aren't familiar with anything. They're out in the open and it's daylight. And the girl, I think it was the girl, says the line, "It's funny, you were so scary at night." And then I think she shoots him pretty quickly. But I don't know, it was just a really cool line because it is true. He was incredibly scary. He started off as a voice just outside the room. And it's like the voice of like death. It's like when you hear him, like you're gonna die. Like it's so ominous. But when you see him in the full daylight, it's just, he's an old man. That's all he is. And it's kind of like great line, he was so scary at night. And then my final note here, which is that for a second I thought the dog, basically the pit bull, runs away, but at the end the pit bull shows up again, and I thought the pit bull was going to kill the two survivors as like a twist ending. But no, we got a nice happy ending, where the two people get to run away and maybe live a new life. Who knows? But that was the Green Room. No, I don't know why I keep saying the Green Room. That was Green Room. I believe an A24 movie, which I think I said that at the beginning. Anyway, next up, the second last movie of this month, House LLC. So I found this because I'm pretty sure I was looking up like, what are some good found footage like horror movies or something, because I've seen Cloverfield and I loved Cloverfield. I feel like I've probably seen some other found footage thing recently that it's not like coming to me. I probably should have written it down if I did. But anyway, I love Cloverfield so much that I was like, okay, let me find another one. And a lot of people recommended House LLC. So I guess I didn't say this. This is a movie. It's an hour and 23 minutes long, and I watched it on the 9th of October. So look, we're only into the 9th of the month, and we're almost at the end of this video. But yeah, this is a 4 out of 5. Now it probably doesn't deserve a 4 out of 5, but I enjoyed it, is what I would say. This is there's a lot of issues with this movie. Like, it's a found footage movie. The characters are very dumb, which is, sometimes good, sometimes bad, but in this case, I think it detracts from it. Some things are really cringe, especially the final scene with these like hooded figures. That was really cringe. And just the general concept of spoilers, completely. I do recommend this movie, so if you haven't been spoiled yet, then go and watch it. But I don't enjoy the fact that it is just a supernatural thing. Is what is haunting this house. There is no like real explanation or anything. It's just like, it's being possessed. Like the basement is haunted basically. And I think that kind of undermines the movie a little bit in my enjoyment of it. I'm sure it's like consistent for the movie itself, but to me it was a bit less. So there's like a few big issues like that throughout that maybe wouldn't lead me to give it a 4 out of 5, but it was an incredibly effective horror movie. This was legitimately scary. It is the scariest thing I've watched this month. Not that I had many scary things. Like, it's scarier than Green Room. It's one of the scariest movies I've seen. But I feel so dumb. I think I have a note on this, but I feel so dumb for being scared of it because it is like a bit goofy. It's kind of like this clown gets possessed basically, and it's like it's really not that scary. But for some reason, I was like freaking out. I was like getting chills and stuff, like at how scared I was. But anyway, so I guess that's my overall thoughts for Hell House. But geez, I have a lot of notes on this. So the first found footage. Oh, okay. The movie basically opens. I think the movie is framed as an interview where it's like something bad has happened at the House LLC, basically, this haunted house. And they're interviewing like people who are involved or the survivors or stuff like that. And the movie basically opens with seeing the found footage of the day that the haunted house was open, like the first day where the incident happened, basically. And it is the most realistic found footage I've ever seen in my life. If you told me that this was like a real thing that happened and they just like commandeered it for the movie, I think it's like a word, right? Commandeered, I don't know. I would believe it, but it fits in too well. So I'm pretty sure this is like an actual thing they filmed. But yeah, it's basically you're walking through a haunted house, which if you've gone like to the Easter show or something in Sydney, or if I'm sure there's other things like that, probably any large enough carnival probably has a haunted house, right? You know what it's like. It's like you're walking through, it's like a preset path, and there's like actors, but they're like scary because it's dark and they can like almost touch you and they have like props and stuff. It basically feels like you're going through one of those. But the fact that you know this is a found footage horror movie means that something's going to go wrong during this found footage you're seeing. So it was kind of scary, but you don't really see what's going wrong. Like all you really see is that like they're going through there, they're enjoying it. It's like a haunted house, and eventually people start screaming and people are trying to run out of the basement and there's like chaos and stuff basically. And I thought that was very effective. So the movie starts off very strong. Then a haunted house is truly scary if you don't trust the actors won't abuse like basically their power. So if you're basically if you know for 100% certain that the actors aren't going to touch you when they're not able to touch you and there's like no possibility of them touching you by accident or anything, then there is no fear to a haunted house. Like there is nothing. It's purely comes down to, at least to me, the fear that maybe something might go wrong and they might accidentally touch you. That's kind of where the element, I guess, of like fear is wrong, or even just like this thought in the back of your mind of like maybe someone's going to play a prank and like not a prank, but I guess it's a very serious prank where they replace the actors and try and do something dumb and it ends up like accidentally killing someone. Like stuff like that is kind of like what's scary about a haunted house. Like if you had a full trust in it, then I guess it wouldn't be scary, which is kind of why it wouldn't be scary for anyone actually working there, But anyway, my next note. So my guess right now is that one of the actors got mangled by a piece of machinery, making them look like the monster, and in turn that caused many other people to get caught up and die. So that was completely wrong. It's a ghost, supernatural spirits are coming, crazy. Weird pause frame during the turned in footage where they show a figure. It would have been better if they didn't pause because I already saw it was, I think it's basically this like, it's one of those things where it's like let the viewer like figure it out on them or themselves, but they like pause in a frame and like show the actual figure, whereas I already saw the figure when I was going through it, so it was kind of like, oh, that's lame. It's like, oh, I thought it was a bit scary, but now you're focusing on it, it's not that scary. But anyway, I'm not sure what I think about the fact that this is a mix of found footage. So this is a mix of found footage basically, but the entire movie is framed as like an interview. So it's like formal, like proper camera with an interviewer interviewing someone, interspliced with like found footage from the actual day of the event, or the build up to it, because it's like they're planning this haunted house and the day is like the final day of the planning. But I think it would have been better as just a pure found footage movie. I don't think the interview element adds anything to it. I think the interview is actually the worst part, because at the end you find out that the person that's being interviewed is basically one of the spirits that are possessing the house, and it's kind of like a it's like we didn't really need that twist, to make it satisfying. Like the movie was fine without that. And arguably the worst scene in this is the final scene, which is the plot twist based on that girl being a spirit. Spirit, sorry. Anyway, so I'm not sure what I think about the fact that it's a mix of found footage and news broadcasts and interviews. It might be better this way, or it might have been better if it was just found footage. True. If a horror movie really wants to scare me, it should use 3D audio to make it sound like someone is in my room or knocking on my door when someone in the movie is knocking on the door. I don't know why I've never had this happen in a movie before. Like, it's a genius idea, right? Like, sometimes you'll be like watching YouTube videos, or you'll watch like a TikTok or something, and you'll like they'll use like a 3D audio which sounds like someone's knocking. It's like, that's like a genius idea. Use that in a movie and it'll actually freak someone out, because like they'll look and they'll like you can time it with like what's happening on screen. I don't know. I feel like it's a genius idea. Surely someone's done that before, right? I've just never experienced it. Anyway, Jesus, when he's recording before bed and you see someone behind him and he thinks it's his friend sleepwalking. Yeah, there's a lot of really creepy scenes like this where on paper it sounds dumb, right? Like, who would be scared of that? It's like the typical, like stereotypical, I guess, scene in a horror movie where it's like someone's filming themselves and behind them you see a figure that's like slowly getting closer or whatever. But it's just so effective. It's so effective. I don't know what to say. Like, it's truly scary. It really scared me. Like, seeing this guy do a vlog and he actually sees the figure behind him in the vlog, which is already scary enough. But the fact that he dismisses it because he thinks it's his friend, and he's like, and the guy walks away eventually, the figure. So it's just like, oh, I guess my friend was trying to scare me. He doesn't realize that he was actually in a lot of danger then. But yeah, one of the people being interviewed seems suspicious. Oh, that's interesting, because they turned out to be a ghost. So I guess I picked something up, unless it was someone else. I don't know. I said particularly the line, the first was an 11-year-old girl. Well, I think it was an 11-year-old girl. Yeah, that kind of sounds suspicious, right? Because it's like, you were so specific to say it was an 11-year-old girl. Now you're kind of backtracking to kind of make it sound like you knew less than you did or something. So that was my detective skills there. But I doubt the spirit got confused. It probably was a real person who just like wasn't sure. But anyway, next note. It's kind of scary that maybe the robots' decorations are slowly being replaced by real things, or maybe it's a sci-fi movie and entities are replacing them. Honestly, I'd prefer if it wasn't sci-fi. Well, it turned out to be sci-fi, and the things were replacing them, so that was a shame. But yeah, if you redid this movie, instead of having spirits possess like the clown, if you have like real people who are in a cult or something do it, I think that'd be way more like interesting. But I don't know, maybe it's hard to pull off. Who knows? Jesus Christ, the scene where he almost goes to the basement. Oh yes, this is the scariest scene in the movie. I looked this up afterwards. Like, I've watched this a few times just because of how scary it is. But basically, this guy is tasked with vlogging their entire like experience of making this haunted house, right? So like every day he'll like vlog what's happening, and we're watching the found footage of that vlog. Now, in this terrifying scene, he is walking around the house, and it's like it's quite a long route to go from like, I think it's like the kitchen or like diner area to toward the basement. And he's like talking to his friends, then he's like, okay, I'm gonna go check out the basement or something. He walks towards the basement, and in the hallway, not the hallway, like in the stairs to go to the basement, it's so hard to describe this, but there's like a doorway. If you walk in the doorway, there's basically stairs that go straight down the basement that are like perpendicular. This doesn't make any sense to anyone listening, but basically in the doorway there down to the basement, he sees the clown, which is like a figure. It's not like an actual clown. Like, it's like a big prop they've put in the thing, and it's like, oh my god. As a viewer, you're like, that's terrifying, because we know that this clown is a clown, and we know that it's like a toy, and we also know that there's spirits or something going on here. We don't know at this point that it's spirits. Like, it could just be some random cult member that's just like standing there. But he thinks it's his friend, like playing a prank on him, which, typical like horror movie trope. And then like the clown like turns his head, and he looks at him, and it's like, whoa, that's like scary. I thought you were the figure, but you're playing a prank with me or whatever. And then the guy is like, okay, you got me. And then he goes back to the kitchen, and he sees the friend in the kitchen who he thought was the clown. So then he freaks out, and that's like when I'm like freaking out because I'm like, oh my god, this is so scary. I don't know why, but if for some reason this movie is really getting me. And then he goes back to the stairs of the basement, and the clown's not there anymore, and the clown's like back sitting in the basement, and I'm just like, oh my god, this is scary. But I don't know what to say. It was just scary for some reason. All right, the directing, the acting, whatever, it all came together, and it really scared me. Even though describing it now in hindsight, it does not sound scary at all. All right. Anyway. The more the house is decorated, the scarier it is. Yeah, this is a haunted house, so there's like a million like props and decorations and things hanging from the ceilings all the time. Yeah, and the more there is of that, it's more scary because there's always faces in the background of shots, and at any second they could move. So it's kind of like whenever you're seeing a shot, you're always like freaking out because it's like something could move at this point, and like it could be alive. I don't know, it's scary. The strobe scene where the things are moving, there's like a bunch of cool like gimmicks they do in this movie. Basically, the strobe scene is like the lights are strobing and you got a figure in the distance and it slowly moves every time the lights strobe. It's a cool classic thing, but it works well. So it looks like this is probably sci-fi because the guy standing up is a mannequin, according to one of the crewmates. Yeah, that's kind of when I started realizing it was going to be a bit lame, the ending. Sarah was talking backwards in one scene. I wonder what she was saying if you reverse the audio. Yeah, I did look this up afterwards. Well, it wasn't too interesting, whatever it was. But it is on YouTube, I think, a reversed version. This is definitely a scary movie, but I feel kind of embarrassed that I'm scared because it's not really that scary if you take a step back. So yeah, I'm sure you've got that from what I've been describing. But yeah, excuse me again. They definitely deserve what's coming to them if they don't leave after the speaking backwards mannequin situation. Absolutely. This cast is full of idiots. However, there is actually something in this which I thought was ridiculous when I first watched it, and then I looked it up afterwards, and it's still equally ridiculous, which is that basically all these characters you feel like they're really dumb because it's like, why are they still staying after all this? Like they're seeing this girl who's clearly possessed talking backwards, there's mannequins moving, and it's like, obviously you should leave. But then they have this scene where it's like the owner of this house, like the head friend, like the lead friend or whatever, they go to this field or whatever, and they basically the friend tells them the reason that they can't leave. And then you don't hear the reason. You skip to the next scene, and it's just like two of the friends like talking about how terrible a situation they're in, and they can't leave because of what the friend told them. But you never hear what the friend told them, and you never find out at all. So watching this movie is a self-contained thing. You don't know why the dumb characters are just staying here. Like you don't know the reason. They never tell you. So it's kind of like we just have to think of a good reason, which there is no good reason. But when I looked it up, apparently the sequels or something, like some maybe behind the scenes thing, I got no idea, gives it away, which is that basically the owner tells them that they're going bankrupt or something. So they have to stay there, otherwise they're going to be out of money or something. I don't know. But that was pretty dumb. That's what I would say. My next note, why don't they check the footage? Basically this guy gets possessed and he like disappears for 2 days, and he was the vlogging guy. And he captures the spirit that possessed him. Or like he basically captures, we see it in the found footage, what happens to him before he disappears for the 2 days. But he does come back, and the characters that are there don't ask him, they don't go to like review the footage or anything to see where he went. They just don't do anything about it, which is also pretty dumb. There's a few small dumb things like that in this movie. Then I feel like being in this, this is somewhat of an interesting note, I think, which is that I think it's scarier watching this movie than it would be to actually be in the position of the characters in this movie. And I think maybe this is the case for all horror movies, I don't know. But and I'm purely talking about fear, not danger. Like obviously they're in way more danger than I would ever be, because my only danger is having a heart attack or something. But in my case, when I watch something scary, there's nothing I can do like watching this movie. I just have to keep watching the movie, like, and be scared. Now, in their situation, if I was like seeing a clown in the hallway or something, and I'm like, oh my god, that's a mannequin, how is it moving? Like my fight or flight would kick in, and I wouldn't be feeling anything. All I would be feeling is the fact that I need to run away, and run away I would. And I feel like I would be less scared than I would be watching that situation. So I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but that's kind of what I crossed my mind when I was watching this. But anyway, then I'm getting toward the end of these notes here. It would be cool to end this movie with the government doing a thorough investigation as to what the supernatural situation is. Yeah, like if the government comes in, like there are sequels to this, which I didn't watch because apparently they're pretty bad, but it would be interesting to just go full sci-fi and like bring in the government and have these like blaring white lights that light up the entire house from like beginning to end, and you can see every little area, and put away all the mystery. And have like scientists go in and turn it into like a science fiction movie. That would be fun. Like that would be a good sequel idea. I doubt they do something like that, but it would be cool. in my opinion. There's a scene where they cut from. Oh, this is the scene I was talking about. Let me just read it out. So I said, there's a scene where they cut when one friend tells the other friend something. This is a terribly written note. Let's skip that. But that was the point about the friend not telling them why they have to stay, basically. Another thing is that they have this like artificial glitching effect when when they go to the basement and things are getting possessed, the camera like glitches. It's like cheesy. Like, why would you do that? It kind of like, I don't know, makes the movie less. Like, it's a bad directing choice, in my opinion. Then this is we're getting right to the end. So the final scene in the movie basically is the girl who was being interviewed throughout this entire movie. She finishes the interview and goes home. We don't see her. We follow the interviewer. And the interviewer is like, okay, let's go to the haunted house now to finish up this like documentary we're making. And they go there and they go to room 23 or something, and the girl they were interviewing lives there, and she's like a possessed person. And the clown guy shows up, and the clown guy's scary. But then these two hooded figures show up. It's real goofy. It's like they're just like cosplaying or something as like scary things for Halloween. I don't know. It just wasn't funny at all. And then the camera like glitches and stuff, and it's like, oh, this is a really goofy ending for like an otherwise actually legitimately scary movie. But I was like laughing at that final scene. Anyway, so overall I said, a fun movie with quite a cheesy, goofy ending where the possessed things, people, growling beast kill the girl. Yeah, it was really goofy. Then I said there's a second ending with Sarah and the hooded figure. Oh yeah, true. So I was just talking about the goofiness of the hooded figure ending, but there also was the fact that the another girl in the haunted house place gets killed by a beast, which is what I just read out about, like that growling beast. And that's like equally goofy. Yeah, the whole ending is just ridiculously goofy for an otherwise very scary movie. But anyway, that is House LLC. I recommend it if you're if you got to this point and you're still interested despite all the spoilers. I think it's an actually scary movie, so I definitely recommend it. But I guess finally for this digest, we have THX 1138 1971, the director's cut. So this is a movie. It's an hour and 28 minutes long, and I watched it on the 12th of October. So if you aren't aware, THX 1138 is a George Lucas directed movie. So that's how I heard about it. I've heard about this for years. Listen to all my Star Wars podcasts. They always talk about American Graffiti and THX 1138. I believe THX 1138 was his like first proper like big like production kind of movie. I think this came before American Graffiti. Now I could be wrong, but that's what I'm gonna claim it as for now. But yeah, so I was interested because I'm like, I like George Lucas, but is he like a one-hit wonder, or does he actually like make good things? Like, is he a legitimately good director, or did he just like manage to do well directing the first Star Wars and then directing the prequels afterwards? But this is a 3 out of 5. It's good. Overall, I would say the directing is very good. he is not a one-hit wonder. He's a very good director. This is a very ambitious movie. In terms of visuals, like, it's unique is what I would say. Like, look at this visual here. It's a white room. You got one guy. You spend a lot of time in this white area, so it's like you got to make do with it, I guess. It's really interesting. The premise of this movie is basically you're living in this totalitarian society where I don't even, honestly, my biggest issue with this movie is that I don't understand it, but I get the vibes. Basically you're living in this totalitarian society where people are constantly drugged, and they have to do work and they have to be efficient, and there's like big brother is always watching them, and everything is about making money, and everyone has budgets and you can't go over your budget, and it's like a very like totalitarian movie basically. And yeah, I guess that's the general premise. And I think style wise it's probably a 4 or 5. Like it's just a very good looking movie. It's just the fact that it's not incredibly engaging, and it's confusing. Absolutely, it's very confusing. But yeah, anyway. So I said, all right, let me just go through my actual notes here. I said opens with a Buck Rogers advertisement. Now, I don't know, I thought Buck Rogers was like an actual thing, like an actual like show or something, but this opens with a trailer for it, I think, which was a bit weird. I don't know what that is. Like, I don't know if it's like part of the actual movie or if it's like a meta bit, like a trailer that came before the movie when it aired in cinemas. I got no idea, but it was a bit weird. Let's see. The text for the credits scroll down, which is unique. Yeah, I think like usually when you see credits in like the ending of a movie, you see them go like, they scroll up, right? Like they go from start to the bottom and they go up. In this movie, I think as far as my note says and what I remember, I think they go down. Like it's basically the opposite to what's usual. And it was weird and interesting. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, I wonder if this is a directing choice, or if all movies used to be like that. Or maybe movies weren't as big back then, so they weren't like, there wasn't a standard way of doing things. I don't know. This is 1971. Like, this is pretty early, but I mean, there've been movies for quite a long time, so I don't think this is one of the early movies. But anyway, then I said, is this a modern cut or something? Because the VFX looks surprisingly really good at some parts. And I did look it up afterwards, and it definitely is. The director's cut has the typical George Lucas, like what he did to Star Wars, where he adds like a bunch of CGI stuff. And it's very obvious every time it happens. And I'm not too much of a, like, I don't have an issue with it. It was fine, but it does stand out. I think the bits in the factory when it's like him like dropping the rod or something and it causes the nuclear meltdown, like that CGI looks really good. I think that's like well deserving. But sometimes in the end, like they transitioned. I remember they transitioned to this like car chase basically, and that kind of felt like it came out of nowhere. But other than that, it was fine, I think. But it definitely was noticeable. But anyway. So I said, this is a big brother, big government, cynical future of technology kind of movie. People are always listening. The recorded voice is always talking to you. The voice doesn't really care about you. Everyone is sedated. Sedated, that's the word I was looking for at all times. The voice tells you to buy things. People report other people. The robots never say anything that could come across as evil. That was kind of interesting. The robots in this movie are interesting for two reasons. One is the fact that the robots are clearly just actors in like suits and makeup or whatever, and so they don't like move like robots, they like move like people, but they still are metallic, like they make metallic sound effects basically, like they're made of metal. So it's like jarring. It's like, that's bad, not directing, but bad, like, what do you even call it, like what is it called, like costuming or something? I don't know, it was just weird. The robots are weird, but they're kind of funny, not funny, they're kind of interesting, because clearly they're programmed, or like their role in society is to always be nice to people, but they have to get things done, you know. They're like the totalitarian puppet that is seemingly nice to you, but it's not. It's like the good cop and the bad cop kind of thing, but not really, kind of. It's hard to explain. But I have an example here. I said, so the robots never say anything that could come across as evil, like telling the two people hiding in a room. Basically, yeah, there's two people that are hiding in a room, and instead of like saying, we need to come out, and they're like, instead of screaming at them or anything, or telling them, oh, you're going to go to prison if you don't go up, or your sentence is going to be shorter if you don't like come out or something, they say, don't worry, we'll get in there soon. Like they're like not taunting them, but they're like saying it with like sincerity, like, don't worry guys, we'll get in that room soon. Don't panic, check if the door is locked on your side. And it's kind of like, then they can't say anything to like incriminate themselves, or to say that they're doing something bad, or something like forceful or something, you know. It's an interesting way to frame a bad, or like government oversight or whatever. It's like they're technically not saying anything bad or doing anything bad, but it's like it's veiled evilness. I don't know what to say, but it's interesting. I wonder when the idea of robots came around the time that computers were becoming known. Yeah, like just the concept of robots, because obviously robots are mechanical, and mechanical things didn't exist for forever in all of history. So like, I wonder at what point did robots become like a really mainstream thing, like where everyone would know what a robot is. Like, was it tied to the creation of computers, like in the early 1900s or whatever? Or was it like way before that? Was it like in like printing press kind of times? Like, I got no idea. Then I said, is Alec Guinness in this? Because it sounded like he was the guy with the metal head. I have no idea who the guy with the metal head is, and I feel like he probably wasn't in this, because I don't really remember him. But maybe he was, you know? George Lucas. If you don't know, Alec Guinness was Obi-Wan Kenobi in the original Star Wars trilogy. But anyway. All the employees are sedated, true. And then I said, oh my god, THX, you know, in THX, let me point to it instead of my screen, THX 1138 is pronounced Thex, because THX 1138 is basically this guy's ID, like his name, basically. And his girlfriend calls him Thex. And I was like, oh my god, the movie is called Thex 1138. But it's not, because later on they say THX when they're in public. So Thex is like a nickname. So the movie is still called THX 1138. So I wasn't wrong, all right? Then I said, the plot is hard to follow. This is an incredibly confusing movie. So I said, I think the woman, Thex's mate, slowly weaned him off his sedative so that he would be unsedated with her and they could be intimate together, is basically what I was thinking. Excuse me. Then I have my notes about the robots being bad, visual effects. So the sedative is so that people can work efficiently and without complaining. True. He goes into detention and they run a bunch of tests on him. There's a great scene where he's in, basically, the best scene in this movie is this scene here, where basically he's in a white void. the scene goes on for maybe like 2 or 3 minutes, but he starts off like in this white void, and he tries to run away, but there's like three robots with sticks, and they like circle him, and it's a really slow scene where it's like initially they're like walking in, and he's like slowly walking around in circles, and then I think he starts running in circles, and they're like basically closing in. And it's kind of like they're not physically torturing him, they're mentally torturing him, even though there's no like contact going on at all. Like he's ushering their sticks away by doing like kung fu, but like slowly kung fu, sorry. But I don't know, it's like a weird, goofy, interesting kind of scene, directed in a really cool way with this white void. But yeah, anyway. So I said he goes into detention, they run a bunch of tests on him. There's a great scene where he's in the white cell testing chamber, and the administration are running things, sending signals that cause him to move in certain directions and seize like have a seizure. And the administration is all casual about the mistakes they're making while he's suffering. So this is kind of right before the scene, I think, where they are torturing him. Or maybe it's right afterwards, I don't know. It's one of them. It's great. Then I said the visuals of this movie are great. The audio is a bit unclear at times, like actually the mixing of it. It's hard to like follow what's actually being said, and the story is difficult to follow. Absolutely. They run into a black person and they freak out. So I'm assuming there's like black people in this society or something. And I think the black person was like a hologram or something. Is like what I remember, or it was like an AI or something. I don't know. It's interesting. And then holy shit, when they open the door. Oh yeah, this is a really there's a lot of like cool directing things in this, but basically they're in this white void for like half the movie, and at some point they like open this door to go outside the white void, and it's like this tsunami of people and cars, and it's like an intense like completely different world to what they're currently in now, like the quiet white void, this bustling like basically tsunami of people outside. It's scary. And it kind of reminded me of like SpongeBob when they like go from their like, you know, their nice little peaceful Flying Dutchman to the perfume aisle of the shop. And it's kind of like, oh, this is like terrifying, you know? It was kind of like that in this movie. That's the analogy I would make. But anyway. So then I just like have confusion about what's going on. Basically, he had his mate. And when I say mate, it's like the girl that he was living with. They called each other's mates for some reason. But I said, I just didn't understand. Like at some point, I think they mentioned that she never existed. But then at some point, I think he learns that she was a fetus, like she was never a person or something. Or she reverted into a fetus. I got no idea. It was very confusing. Jesus Christ, the black hologram guy crashes the car just when you think he might get a happy ending and run away. Yeah, basically there's like, they run away from this white void place and they steal a car, like each of them. They both steal a car. The main character gets to run away with this car, like the car works. The black guy, the black hologram guy, he's trying to like get the car to start, and it's basically not starting. But right at the last second, it like starts, and then I think he like crashes into this pole instantly, and it's like he's not getting away. It's kind of like, oh damn, that's really sad. But it was tension building, and it was effective, I guess is what I would say. And also it's kind of sad because like Thex is going to be lonely now, you know, like he's not going to have his friend with him. But anyway. A CGI car chase is not what I expected from this movie. Is this added in the director's cut? Yes, it is. Then there's the whole ending. Like I have very few small notes here, but the ending is interesting because it's like Thex runs away basically, and he gets away. Like he manages to actually escape because the budget for the people chasing him is basically like 2 or 3 robots chasing him, and their budget runs out, so they like go back, and it's kind of like I like that idea. But yeah, this like it's scary because like he goes to the surface of the planet basically, and it's like, what does he do now? You know, it's like he's all on his own. He can't go back to society. Like it's just like a weird kind of interesting ending, and ambiguous ending is I guess what I would say. And yeah, I think the final movie, I hope it's this movie and I'm not mixing up with another one, but I'm pretty sure the final shot of this movie is basically Thex standing on the surface with the sun in the background, and the shot lasts like 5 minutes or something. It's like crazy. It's great. I really like it. But anyway, then I have 2 notes. I said, made by Warner Brothers. So this must be before George Lucas's big split with them. Yeah, I know at some point George Lucas, like, he got like really angry. Like, I don't remember if it was, I think it was Warner Brothers, like whoever was producing or like, yeah, I guess producing and distributing his movies. And I think he also got in like a big fight with the Directors Guild. So he just like, he went completely independent and started Lucasfilm. So it's like, he became his own like distribution, whatever. And did he actually, now that I think about it, did he? I think, because then it was like 20th Century Fox, right? I don't know. Basically, it was interesting to see Warner Brothers here, because I'm like, these days I would never see a Warner Brothers in a George Lucas thing, but it was kind of interesting. I should look into that history a bit more. Anyway, my final note which I said earlier, after seeing this, I can confidently say that George Lucas is not a one-hit wonder, and he is, in fact, a brilliant director. Okay, I will confidently say that. He is very good at directing, and I can see why people gave him the chance to make Star Wars, because this was a very good movie in terms of directing. Anyway, that was THX 1138. So now we have the 2023 ranking so far. So, right at the end, the first 1 out of 10 in this entire year so far, we've got Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, all right? Next up, we've got Paprika. I believe this was 2 out of 5, right? But it's at the top of the 2 out of 5s, right? Then we've got Ahsoka, which I haven't talked about in this digest besides my brief recap, but that's, right up there in the 3 out of 5s. Then we've got THX 1138 at the top of the 3 out of 5s. We got Take Shelter at the bottom of the 4 out of 5s. We got House LLC, above Take Shelter in the 4 out of 5s. It's a mild position. I really like Godzilla, so it's above, right below Godzilla. Then we've got Lola Run, which I absolutely adore. That was a fantastic movie. Right below Devilman. Then we've got A Green Room, which was really good. A24. I love my A24. That was a great, intense thriller. And then we've got one of the greatest things I've seen all year. One of the greatest things I've ever seen in my life. We have got Perfect Blue, an amazing movie. I recommend it to anyone who at least is open to the idea of anime. And I think that this movie has the potential to move up, even in the top 4 on successive rewatches. I really liked Perfect Blue. But it's no Yi Yi yet, right? I really also like Yi Yi. So I don't know, we'll have to rewatch these. Maybe in a few years from now, I'll rewatch these like top 2 movies here and see which one I like more. But that was my 2023 ranking so far. And I have no YouTube videos, right? I've been incredibly busy. This digest is already pretty late. What is it? It's the 7th of October right now, right? And I just didn't have time to because believe it or not, the YouTube video section of this takes quite a while because I've rewatched the videos quite a few times and I take notes and I don't know. But if you're really interested in seeing me talk about the YouTube videos, I have a bunch that I've watched this month, on my stream. So check out, I guess press the live tab on this channel and you'll see all the videos that I've reacted to and get my live commentary and thoughts afterwards. But yeah, anyway, that's the end of the digest. Comment with your suggestions, but to be honest, I don't think I'll watch anything you comment this month. I'll probably be just catching up on all the stuff I've got in my backlog of things that I'm meant to be watching. I think I probably will stick to movies this month. It also is the second last month of the year, which is crazy, November and then December. So I don't have too many options before we get to 2024. I think it's too much time, not really options. I have plenty of options, but yeah, I'll probably watch the movies that people have recommended. Hopefully at least one from each person. So yeah, anyway, digest.